2, 1.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and being a producer of Wrestle Massacre as well as Inside Movies Galore, I am David Strege, and welcome to Delusions of Grandeur. Enjoy the reviews. I certainly did.
Alrighty. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting film journey here on Delusions of Grandeur. I'm your host, or one of your hosts, and today we are going to be returning to a franchise that our good friend Boris here has been traveling us through and subjecting us to. I guess he just wants to continue to curse us. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the movie that you had us watch for this week?
For this week, I chose The Ring, the American version of the Japanese horror classic, which is kind of ironic that I never suggested this movie sooner, since it's the movie that actually introduced me to the horror genre and got me interested in it. So if it wasn't for that movie, I would have never even gotten to know you guys. So it's really strange that I somehow never brought up this one for a discussion before, but yeah, here it comes. So, The Ring from 2002, like I said, it's a remake of a Japanese Ringu from 1998. It was directed by Gore Verbanski, who we already know as the director of Pirates of the Caribbean, which we have been covering before.
Well, at least a couple.
Written. Yeah.
He didn't direct all of them, but at least the first 3, not 4.
Wait, we didn't do all of them.
I think we did ultimately, didn't we, Tammy? Didn't we cover all of them by now?
Tammy,
yeah, I think so.
Okay, because I know that Gore Verbanski wasn't the director of all of them. I know he was at least the director of the first 3, if not 4. So.
Actually, yeah, I think the fourth one had a different director. I remember the fourth one really felt different from the others.
But besides the case, we're back with that director.
Yeah. So, the movie was directed by Gore Verbinski, written by Aaron Kruger, Koji Suzuki, and Hiroshi Takahashi. Well, these are credited as the writers, but factually, Aaron Kruger is the script writer for this one. Koji Suzuki is the writer of the original novel that sparked the whole franchise. And Hiroshi Takahashi, if I'm not wrong, was the script writer of the Japanese Ringu. And the movie stars Naomi Watts, Martin Henderson, and IMDb says Brian Cox, but he is not really that important. I don't know why he is listed as the third one. So the third one.
Brian Cox, I believe, plays the father of Samara, which eventually we'll get into that.
Yes, that's correct. But yeah, I would say more important figures here are David Dorfman, who played Aiden, or Davey Chase, who played Samara. But yeah, so what does it say? A journalist must investigate a mysterious videotape which seems to cause the death of anyone weak to the day after they view it. So, is this the first time you all have seen this movie?
Oh no,
you have
I
seen
actually.
if you
I myself,
yes,
I've actually seen the Ring in the theaters. Back when it was in theaters.
And you are still alive. Interesting.
Well, when I was still a boy. But I believe I saw it with my mentor at the time. I was for a time the state actually let me have someone who would take me out places and whatnot because I'd gotten in trouble, and this was one of the movies I think he took me to go see. So it was 2002. I was still in high school when I saw this. So I thought it. I mean, I'd heard about the Japanese renditions at the time, but they weren't hugely Americanized or anywhere that I could actually like watch at that given point in time. So these American rings are the only ones that I had actually seen up until a certain point. So to me,
until yes,
I didn't know Sadako existed entirely when these came out. I wasn't heavily into figuring out who was who and who directed this and whatnot at the time. So, and the ways in order to get movies, I didn't have those ways to get as I do now. So, but other than that, I enjoyed this foray into the horror genre, and now that I have actually seen the Japanese version, I actually tend to like the older ones, the Japanese ones, better because of the storyline themselves. But that being said, this wasn't a bad jump into the genre. Us Americans, we try to make films from other countries better because it's a money cow.
Yeah.
But what about you, Tammy? Was this the first time watch for you?
No, I've seen it probably a couple times now with you. So, I mean, I thought it was pretty decent. It was interesting, and you know, the investigative work that went on. To
Oh
try and
yeah.
solve this, to try and solve it, and everything. So, I mean, I liked it that it wasn't like a pure horror movie. It had your drama and your suspense and your you know mystery and all that stuff in it.
Yeah, you can somewhat feel that it's based on that it's indirectly based on a novel that actually wasn't originally intended to be horror, but more like a detective novel with supernatural elements,
Yeah,
which goes more into the sci-fi territory in the sequels, but that's another story.
They certainly didn't go entirely into the um, story as heavily as they did supernaturally wise. It was more or less the baseline line of some of a character that seemed to be trying to make sure her message lived on, you know. And I think that's the entire possibly the entirety of the story is something happened where and let me summarize it a little bit for us, I guess, if you don't mind
Okay.
that I do so. Um, Apparently, there was a couple who ran a farm, and the father breeded horses, from what I understand.
Yes.
And the wife eventually went crazy, and they both thought that she went crazy because of the daughter uh, that no one thought could have existed, you know. Um, and because of the unknowns and whatnot, they were frightened. And I think we eventually find out that the mother actually does kill the daughter. Uh,
In this version, yes.
in this version. And that's pretty much, uh, and it's looks like the father that then uh, also imprisoned his daughter in the barn uh, for many years, and it looks like uh, the same psych ward that his wife went to, his daughter did too, and uh, something happened, and the mother killed the daughter, buried her in a well, and the father covered it up, basically.
Uh,
Um, if I am getting something wrong, let me know.
I don't think you got anything wrong. You just forgot to mention that the mother also committed suicide after killing the daughter.
Okay, yeah. And then of course we have the suicide thing, which at the beginning of the movie, why don't you? Okay, since we've already heard Tammy's thoughts, did we go through your first impressions?
No, we haven't.
Why don't I ask
So,
what your first impressions were?
so of course, this is not the first time I saw this movie. The first time was, I even remember the date, May 24, 2012. Um, and like I said, this was the movie that got me into the horror genre. I really have a long and huge history with it. There is a long story to how I even got interested in it to begin with. But yeah, I have to agree with Tammy that about the mystery and the investigation aspect of this story, which is one of my personal favorites aspects, one of my personal favorite aspects of the Ring, not only this version but other versions as well. Uh, Actually, that part, the mystery, the investigation, the detective work, all that, that's something I actually find a much more impacting part of the story than just the plain scares. Uh,
Well, just to say something, there's not really that much detective work in this particular movie, to be fair. It's more done by the mother of the newspaper reporter, which we know her son seems to be able to predict things. Um,
well,
and and in this particular one, it starts out with apparently the cousin of the son, uh,
yes,
which is an interesting point to clarify because in the original Ring movies, none of the people that were involved in the very beginning, like the ones that went and had that party and watched the movie and had the boyfriend and all that jazz, well, none of them were. I don't think were related to the
uh,
family.
Uh, actually, in Hideo Nakata's Ringu, I think they were. Reiko Asakawa had a son Yoichi who was also the cousin of Tomoko, one of the four who died. It's just that in Ringu Kanzenban it was different because the protagonist's child was not
Yes, but
born
that's
yet,
that's
so.
also the one that it seems the public doesn't recognize as part of the original Ring franchise.
Yeah, in Kazenban, the girl who died was the niece of the main reporter's wife. The main character in Kazenban was male, not female, if you remember.
Yeah, I remember, but I also remember that it's also the film that isn't recognized as part of the original Ring
Ah,
franchise.
oh,
It's
yeah. Unfortunately,
it's
many people.
it's blatantly ignored.
Yes. Many people don't even know that it exists. Many people don't even know that the novel exists.
But alrighty, so I'm going to leave this over to you to bring us forward here. I've taken over your hosting um,
That's fine.
a little bit,
So,
but
the first time I watched the movie, I have to say I found it very interesting, very suspenseful, although I would say not as scary as I expected it to be. Before I got into the horror genre, I was a little bit more easily disturbed than I am nowadays. I found some horror stuff kind of scary. It could give me insomnia, nightmares, and stuff like that. So when I discovered The Ring, which was okay, I did hear about it long before I watched it, but it was some memes I ran into on Facebook that got me interested in reading more about it. So I read the synopsis on Wikipedia, and it seemed very interesting, but at the same time, I knew it was a horror movie. I had seen some screenshots, mostly from this iconic scene of Samara coming out of TV in her zombie-like ghost form, and I found those images kind of terrifying. So the story I found out about seemed very intriguing. It was making me very interested in watching it, but at the same time, I was afraid that if I watched it, I might end up having nightmares and insomnia and crap. But eventually, I watched it after all, and yeah, it turned out. Since I already had some expectations, it turned out much less scary than I expected, actually. Uh, but yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. The whole thing of technology behaving in paranormal ways and there being a mystery to solve and all that. And the whole concept of this, as they call it in this movie, projected thermography, which has had other names in the Japanese version, and as well as in some real life cases where people claimed to have similar powers, which may or may not have been true. Okay, not quite like Samara, but some people have claimed to have the power to project an image from their mind onto a physical surface like a wall or a piece of paper or something like that. Now, how much of that story is true or not, who knows? But yeah, some people have claimed to be able to do that. So that was another aspect of this story that I found very interesting. And yeah, it was the beginning of my interest in the Ring franchise and in the horror genre in general. This movie was what got me interested in watching other versions of the movie, the sequels, in reading Koji Suzuki's novels, which right now I'm reading the fifth novel of the Ring franchise, which I never got to read before. So yeah, okay, I guess I'm done rambling about my first impressions, but yeah, I definitely liked this movie a lot, and it had a huge impact on me. I Nowadays, I would my life would have probably been entirely different if I had not discovered this movie, which might sound like an exaggeration, but it's really not because this movie led to some events in my life that also led me to meeting new people who are a very significant part of my life nowadays. So yeah, it's not an exaggeration when I say I wouldn't be the person I am nowadays if I had never watched this movie. But yeah, I guess I'm done rambling about that. So I have already read the synopsis from IMDb. Now let's see how the plot actually begins. At the very beginning, we get to know two teenage girls, Katie and Becca, who are having a sleepover. What?
They also seem to be very disinterested in each other's conversation.
Oh, at first, yeah, but then they start talking about boyfriends and sex and stuff like that, which gets them both a bit more interested. Uh, so yeah, but yeah, before they start talking about sex, they bring up the urban legend of the cursed videotape, which like in the Japanese version, the story they tell is a little bit different from what the tape is actually like. Like they say that the voice on the phone says you will die in 7 days, which is not true. It only said 7 days, not you will die in 7 days. Which in turn kind of imposes the question how exactly those people knew that they were going to die, which they somehow did know, as otherwise they wouldn't have made death a part of the urban legend. But yeah, they start talking about that urban legend, and it turns out that actually happened that night when they are having that discussion is exactly a week after Katie and three other people, as we will find out soon, watched that tape. From what Katie said, it was they were at that cabin they rented, and they wanted to record a football game. But when they wanted to watch that recording, instead of the recording, there was this weird imagery which they started to ramble about, and it became an urban legend. And in this movie, they kind of left it up to interpretation how the tape was made, but there are details throughout the movie that you can pay attention to, and there are people who have analyzed it well online. So there already is a fully fleshed out lore on how the whole thing happened. But okay, we will get into that later.
Yep.
So yeah, after they talk about the legend, they start goofing around with each other. There is a phone call with Katie's mother, which at first seems like it might be paranormally induced, but then it turns out to be just her mother and so on. But uh, something paranormal does start happening, like the devices start going crazy in the house and all that. And
Well,
eventually,
and I think a static a TV that is showing static starts turning back on and off, and she thinks it's her friend Becky or whatever,
Becca, yeah.
Becca, and she even unplugs the sucker and it turns back on, and she still thinks it's Becca fucking with her.
Somehow, yeah. Uh,
But then she goes upstairs, and I guess the outside of the bedroom door is showing signs of flooding, which is kind of weird because it's not a bathroom that it's coming out of; it's the bedroom. You know,
yes, yes.
you
Cindy, the TV's leaking.
yep, and then all of a sudden it shows the imagery that she's already seen.
We, yeah, what we see is an image of the well, and then we see a quick jump scare close up on Katie's face. We see that something scares the shit out of her, and her face gets all distorted, and then poof, static screen. We uh, don't find out immediately what happened, but as we know, she is dead.
Yep,
Um,
and Becca has survived, as that we figure out later on.
yeah, apparently she saw something that really scared her badly. Uh, if we judge by the Japanese Ringu 2, which existed before this movie, uh, Becca apparently saw Samara herself, but since she hadn't watched the tape, Samara couldn't kill her, so I guess the aftermath of running into her without being doomed to die. He's ending up in an institution. uh, but yeah.
which is fairly similar to what happened in the original films. The friend ultimately does end up in the psych ward going crazy because she'd seen what she'd seen, you know.
uh,
Um, and depending upon the version, sometimes there are things happening to the other patients inside the ward, but in this case, in this scenario, no, it does not happen that way.
yeah, and interestingly enough, if I remember correctly, in the Japanese version, Masami, the girl who survives the incident, she gets visited at the psychiatric hospital only in the second movie, Ringu 2, not in the first one, if I remember correctly. But here we get that in the first one, just not in that much detail. Like, unlike the Japanese version, here we don't have the TV going nuts when Becca approaches it, or Samara starting to come out of TV and everyone in the hospital going crazy over that. We don't get that in this version, which would have been kind of interesting to see actually. But okay. So Katie dies as we find out, but before we entirely find that out, we get to know Aidan and Rachel. So Aidan is this little boy, the cousin of Katie, and Rachel is our movie protagonist. His mother, the remade version of Reiko Asakawa from Nakata's Ringu.
What's interesting is that Aiden actually calls her Rachel, doesn't really call her mother that much,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
which also kind of plays into the whole idea that she's not paying attention to what Aiden is doing, and he fucking watches the tape later on. But we'll get into that.
Oh,
I mean,
good point.
to me, the fact that she's not watching him 24/7 and leaves him alone, and there's no, I mean, as far as we know, she doesn't have anyone show up and take care of him. She leaves him several times alone at home.
Actually, that's good noticing. As soon as we get to know Rachel, we get to see her interact with Aiden's teacher, and the teacher shows concerns for Aiden's well-being, while Rachel is more dismissive and like
Well,
Aiden
she's
is
in
okay.
denial. She's in denial.
Well, yes, actually, very good noticing. Although we do see Rachel having quite a bit of an interesting personality, which was introduced in this movie. That wasn't how Reiko Asakawa was in the Japanese version. Before we even get to see Rachel on screen, we
Well,
hear her.
we
What?
see very early on that this is its own animal of a movie. So honestly, you have to realize that when you go into these American versions of the Ring, uh, it is not the Japanese version.
Oh,
Uh,
definitely. Especially the sequels. It's an entirely different story.
well, they take it an entirely different way too. Uh,
Yes.
so uh, they use the Japanese Ring franchise as a baseline, but then that's where the buck stops.
Oh yeah, and it's interesting to notice that they also took a few details from the South Korean remake, which is the original title is Ling, or however it's pronounced, which is the I guess the Korean word for ring, but it's internationally known as the ring virus. That's yet another adaptation of the novel and remake of Nakata's Ringu, but that's a version that I won't be bothering you guys with. I'm not even a fan of that one so much, but yeah. Interestingly enough, in this version, they did take a few things from the Korean version, like what was I going to say? Yeah, this God damn it, these X-ray transparencies where Samara projected some imagery. They kind of took that from the Korean version. Uh, Although in that one the images weren't that complex, but yeah, there were some transparencies on which Eun-soo, or however that name is pronounced in Korean, also projected some letters of the Korean script, and
See, I don't
the
even. I haven't even seen the Korean the ring virus, so I don't know kind of what you're talking about. And I know Tammy doesn't either. So
yeah.
No, I don't know either.
If you ever want to watch it, of course I will find it for you, or in the worst case, extract it from the DVD. But personally, the Korean version is my by far least favorite. I Okay, maybe that's partially because I already knew the story, but I would say the way that movie was put together really wasn't that good. I especially had issues with the sounds, the background music and stuff, which was really not not fitting the story, and it kind of made it really boring and tiresome to watch. Uh, that was my impression at least. But of course, if someone wants to check it out, you can. But like I said, I know you guys are kind of sick of me picking different versions of this movie, so I
oh,
won't be bothering you with the Korean one.
if you wanted to cover it, just because it's technically part of the ring stuff down the road, we won't mind returning to the ring franchise, just so long as we do some other ones in between.
uh, okay. Um, so, oh yeah, another thing they borrowed from the Korean version is the way that Samara's or Sadako's mother or Eun-soo's mother commits suicide. In the Japanese version, both in the novel and in Nakata's version, as well as in Kanzenban, Shizuko Yamamura committed suicide by jumping into a volcano. And in this version, Anna Morgan threw herself off a cliff into the ocean. And that was so in the Korean version too. The mother, I forgot her name in that version, but yeah, she also jumped off a cliff into the ocean, not into a volcano. Uh,
Okay.
so yeah, that's another interesting detail. But yeah, we kind of went ahead of ourselves here.
Yep.
Yeah, so we are
And
at
we don't
the.
get any of that frolicking and brine stuff during the vision. So
Oh, Yeah, Frolic in Bright Goblins B9. That was some phrase that Reiko and Ryuji got in Nakata's version by analyzing the sound on the tape. They did I don't know what and extracted that sound that couldn't be normally heard while watching the tape. Here, I guess the equivalent of that in this version is when Rachel is analyzing the tape and she gets that extended image where she sees that lighthouse from Moesco Island, which reveals the origin of the person who made the tape. I guess that's this movie's equivalent of that part of the story. Ooh, so yeah, we get to know Rachel and Aidan. One thing I found interesting about Rachel's personality is that a phone call with her boss, who she apparently disrespects a lot and isn't afraid of him firing her. She calls him a punctilious prick, which in the Croatian in the Croatian subtitles they changed that phrase since Rachel calls it an alliteration later on, so which is a repetition of consonants for those who don't know. So in the Croatian version, they didn't translate it literally. They also went for an alliteration. So instead of punctilious prick, they used the words in Croatian pretenciozna pizda, which in English would translate to English as pretentious cunt. So that's one part I found really one of the funny moments in this movie, and yeah,
Okay.
it definitely fleshes Rachel out as a character, as kind of a strong female who doesn't take shit from anyone, which is really cool. Uh, but yeah, she takes Aidan home. We find out that Aidan was doing drawings of his cousin's dead body, and that was before the cousin even died. So
Well, yeah, it was found out that the drawings that he did at school were actually done a week before the cousin's death too.
maybe not a week before her death, but a week before the present moment, which is 3 days after her death, so maybe 4 days or so before her death. It was, yeah, this movie kind of implies that Aidan has some psychic powers, but it doesn't explain where those powers come from, which is kind of a flaw in this movie because in the Japanese version, Ryuji, who was Aidan's father, he also had some psychic powers, which uh, uh, I said Aidan's father, Yoichi's father in the Japanese version. He had some psychic powers, which explained why Yoichi had them too. But in this version, Noah, Aidan's father, doesn't have any powers, so it doesn't really make sense for Aidan to have powers of his own. But yeah, actually, the moments when he predicts something could kind of be explained in other ways, which don't necessarily have to include him having powers. But okay, that's my theorizing about this movie. I don't have to ramble that much, I guess. Uh, But yeah, then we get Katie's funeral, where we get to know her friends and family, and Rachel hears the rumors. Yeah, it's a mystery how Katie died. What we find out is that keep the coffin closed for an unknown reason, which we later find out is because her face is heavily deformed, and everyone would logically get terrified if they saw that. And yeah, we hear the mystery why she died. Like, she was a healthy 16 years old. How's it possible that her heart just stopped? And Katie's mother, who is Rachel's sister, she asks Rachel to investigate and get to the bottom of the mystery. And Rachel starts by interrogating Katie's friends and finds out that there is this urban legend about the videotape, and that also there are three other people who are also Katie's friends, and they all died at the very same moment when Katie died. So, what do you all think about that? I've been rambling a lot, and you guys haven't said much. Are you both muted or what? Yeah, you both are muted. Dave, you are muted too.
I'm only muted because I'm listening to you on YouTube so that I can speak.
Oh. Okay, sorry, I was rambling a lot, but you haven't said much. So, what do we think about the part of the story so far?
Oh,
Go ahead, Tammy, if you want to jump in here and tell a little bit about what you think.
okay. Can you jump in first? There, I don't know what to say. He said everything that was going on so far. So, what do you add to it? I don't know what they're expecting me to say.
I don't know. No thoughts on the part that I have covered, like impressions of it or anything. Okay, apparently not.
There's a mystery as to why things are happening and what's going on and why kids are dying.
Oh yeah. So, uh, yeah. So as far as we find out, they have all died from different causes, but as we later on find out, it was Samara who caused it all one way or another.
And they've all supposedly died at like 10 o'clock.
Yes, exactly.
They've all died
That
at
was
10 o'clock, and they all died from different things. But it all comes back to that they were all at the same place at the same time, and then it goes from there.
yeah. So Rachel goes there too to find out what happened. That's interestingly enough the basic idea of the writer who wrote the novel, Koji Suzuki. When he started to write the novel, all he had in his mind was that there were four young and healthy people who died at different locations at the same moment from unknown causes. The question was what happened to them, and what he figured out was that they all had to have been together somewhere at some point, and something had to have happened there that killed them all eventually. And yeah, that's what this whole story develops from. So Rachel ends up going to Shelter Mountain in this vacation resort where those four people stayed, and yeah, she okay. I don't have to ramble about that innkeeper who pretends to be a magician.
And I thought it was a little
Yes.
creepy
Oh, what?
that
Uh,
the motel place had this guy trying to get Rachel to
uh, trying to get.
basically figure out what this card was with a magic trick.
Why did you find that creepy?
Well, she's there asking about the kids and what cabin they were in and all this stuff. You know, she wasn't there for a magic show.
Well, okay, I can see why it would be annoying, but not sure I understand why it would be creepy. Like, it's not like he was doing anything threatening to her.
It's the way that he was saying it, the way that he was presenting it.
Ha! Well, okay, I guess. So she eventually notices the tape on the shelf. Among other tapes, this one is the only one without a box or a label or anything. Which, interestingly enough, in the in the Japanese version, it did have a box, but it was a blank box with nothing written on it. But it did have one at least, not in this version. Uh, so she technically steals that tape and rents cabin 12, the same cabin where those four people stayed. And she watches the tape, which we know is the dangerous one. And what do we think about the content of the tape? Did you guys have any impressions of the very imagery we see on the tape?
To me, it was just a bunch of different images. You know, that's
Yep,
what I got off of
a
it.
bunch. Yeah, it was definitely a bunch of different images, not as creepy as the original Japanese images, but you've got like this slanted long ladder and this chair that seems to swivel a little bit. It's a wooden chair. There's uh, a place that looks like it's by the sea. Of course, there's the woman jumping off. There's the woman looking in the mirror, and there's the child backing up in the shadows in the mirror. And you know, some of the things that she sees image-wise starts to show up in her reality. That's another thing.
Yeah, isn't that an interesting aspect of the movie? Now I don't remember exactly, but okay, in the Japanese version there was a little bit of Reiko seeing imagery from the tape, but not nearly as much as it was in this version. We also forgot to mention the part of when a person has watched the tape, when someone is taking pictures of them, their faces always turn out blurry on the photos.
Yeah.
So
She
that
showed her.
happened.
She showed her ex the digital camera, and he took one specifically of her, and it still messed up. And then I think he
Oh
also did the
yeah.
same of himself later on. And she did try to tell him that she was uncomfortable with him watching the tape before he watched it.
Oh yeah. He kind of did insist, but at the same time, she wasn't giving too much resistance to it. uh, and yeah, I guess that's the. Oh yeah, another interesting detail I forgot to mention when Rachel is just finishing watching the tape, we see a close up on her eye and something like a brief distortion happening to her eye pupil for a moment. Uh, I don't know for sure what's the meaning of that, but in the novels it said that as I rambled about when we were discussing the Japanese version, in the novels, when you watch the tape, what actually kills you eventually isn't a curse but a virus. And there was a little bit of talk of how that virus enters your body through the retina of your eye while you are watching the tape. So maybe that was something like a nod to that detail in the novel, even though in this version it is a curse and not a virus. But yeah, I thought that detail would be really interesting to mention.
Well,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, we do see quite a bit of Rachel seeing imagery from the tape in her real life surroundings. In the Japanese version, not so much. What I remember was imagery appearing to her to alert her that her son has just finished watching the tape. But otherwise, I don't remember there being that much of that in Nakata's Ringu. But yeah,
There was
here
a
we do
ladder.
get quite a bit.
There was a ladder in the tape, and then she walks out of the exodus place, and there's a ladder. There was a tree. She sees the tree. You know, so you see.
Yes. Uh,
But
okay,
he's
well,
saying that not much in the previous
in
rings.
the
Do you see the imagery and the vision that people see? Do they see it afterwards? It's more like a puzzle that they have to figure out um, the meaning of the imagery without having to run into it in reality. You know, although it is interesting how people figure out what image goes to where throughout the franchise.
who indeed, and some images don't even get explained very directly, but you kind of have to analyze and theorize. Uh, for example, the image of a monster that appears to be vomiting something that looks like an intestine or something like that. That's an image that's not quite explained, but I guess that was something like, or at least that's the commonly accepted theory that it represents the way Samara was treated at the psychiatric hospital, like they were probably putting things inside her body as a part of an experiment. And the creature looks like a monster on the tape because I guess because everyone was perceiving her and treating her like a monster. Mm.
Well, she is kind of a monster.
Yeah, in a way.
Although she's kind of a created a monster. And I guess at the end of the day, whether she's Sadako or Samara, um, ultimately at the end of the day, she wants people to realize that something bad happened to her, and she wants it to be known. You know, although I don't get why if they helped her and helped people find her body, why didn't it stop?
Uh, because okay, that part is not very well explained in this version, but it's explained in the other versions, and it's also contained in the deleted scenes of the movie. There is a even though it's in the deleted scenes, there is a fairly well-known moment when Samara says everyone will suffer. So while it is true that she wants her message to remain in the living world, she also wants the world to suffer her pain. That's another
Because
thing she wants.
the world didn't help her out at the moment, so she puts the world on trial, basically.
Oh, yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
She basically puts the world in judgment since the world didn't help her or protect her from dying.
So yeah, we could say that. Mm, so, uh, uh, yeah, we jumped ahead of ourselves again. Where are we actually? Uh, yeah, Rachel has watched the tape. There was the phone call and Samara's voice saying 7 days. uh, And yeah, her face started to appear, Rachel's face distorted on photos. And she reaches out to Noah, who is her ex. In some other versions, I think he is like an ex husband, but in this version, I think it was implied that they just. That they were just in
Hooked
a
up and had
relationship.
a one night stand, basically.
Oh
They
yeah,
were very
yeah,
young when it happened, and the kid's just looking at him.
yeah, and an accident happened.
Well, it seems like that they
Uh,
had some sort of a relationship, whether it be a good friendship or whatever, and one thing led to another one night. But but it seems like they've continued with this friendship at least all these years, even if they're not together. Because
oh
why would she
yeah,
go to
well,
him? And she went to him and she trusted him to go to him. If they didn't have some sort of a relationship, why would
well,
she?
he was the father of her child, so I guess they had to be in contact because of the child.
Well, I actually think that he hasn't really been in the child's life uh, at all. And Aiden had the conversation with him in the car, asking why he didn't and wasn't around. And he's like, "Well, we were very young at the time that we had you, and I was afraid that I would not be the father that you would have needed, especially since my own father was neglect of his own duties, basically."
Yes, yes. Although I don't think that Noah was entirely absent from Aiden's life because Aiden did know him at least.
I think
But
he was entirely absent, although there was something that it seems that Aiden remembered him from.
yes, what are you referring to?
He mentioned something while he was in the car. I remember you at such and such. I don't remember exactly what it was, but he said he remembered him from something. And he's like,
Huh.
"How can you remember that? You were like a baby, you know?"
Wait, how is it possible that I don't remember that moment and I have seen this movie so many freaking times?
It's that moment in the car when he's like, "Okay, why haven't you been in my life?" Kind of thing, you know. It
Hmm,
there
yeah.
there was more of a conversation that they had there, even though there were several silences. The kid,
Yes.
the kid, I think, had trouble communicating with people at times. So,
Oh, yes. Yes, it was kind of directly said at school when Rachel said Aidan is not the talkative type, and the teacher said, which doesn't mean he has nothing to say. Oh no, I have I have closed my Wikipedia page. Let's hope I can get it back up since my connection isn't very good tonight.
well, if you hear the static, that's me. So,
Oh, if you hadn't said that, I would have assumed it was Samara.
okay, it's Samara, and Sadako is angry.
Nice
She's not
one.
just angry; she's hangry.
Hungry, is that what you said?
But anyways, let's move on. We are at a moment where okay, all of them have figured out. Okay, Rachel, what Rachel has been has feared is actually true or possible. Because at first the ex boyfriend, like, he doesn't believe her and thinks that okay, it's normal, uh, you know. But he figures out that something is going on because he's starting to see things, and
Uh, yeah, he figures it out when he goes to buy cigarettes and he sees that surveillance screen where he sees his own reflection in it, and his face appears
well,
distorted
and
there.
the cashier actually tells him that he's going to die, and the way she says it, is a little freaky. But
It,
um, then she says, because you're because of those cigarettes, and
it,
plays it off a little bit. But
yeah, but it's enough to freak him out even more in such a situation.
yep, and he sees that something is wrong with his image in the camera, and he's looking at it and looking at it like huh, that shouldn't be. And then he's evidently on his way to come see her, because he's taking a bunch of pictures. You can see them in his car on the way, and he's freaking out because he's now realizing that okay, maybe what she said actually has some truth in it. You know?
Oh, yeah. And we also forgot to mention the apparently not too relevant, but actually very relevant detail that during their analysis of the tape, Rachel made a copy for Noah.
Well, yeah, she did. Which I think ultimately is what saves her in the end.
Yes, yes. Like in the Japanese version too, which is that's actually a very good twist. Like at the moment when the copying is done, it appears like really not very relevant detail, but in the end, it turns out to be basically everything.
It's certainly not as pronounced in this version.
Yeah. Oh, so uh, what also happens is that Aidan watches the tape, and while he is watching it, Rachel is having a nightmare
Well,
in
yeah, but
which.
I can also ascertain that to her not being as good of a mother and paying attention to what he's doing. Like she's all involved in this whole investigation. She's not, paying attention to him as she should, since he seems to be uh, not under adult supervision when she's away doing all these things. You know,
Well, to an extent, that's true, but at the
these
same
should
time,
be certain children should be under adult supervision at all times.
uh, yeah,
Um,
true,
it's an
but at the
American thing if it's not something that happens in your country. But and I guess I understand to a certain point if you can't afford it, then what can you do? But then you've got Child Protective Services uh, being called on your butt if people notice you not taking care of your children as much as you should.
uh, well, okay, that makes sense. But as far as Rachel not preventing Aidan from watching the tape,
That's her
like,
fault for
well,
leaving the tape out in the open for her son to actually witness.
in a way it is, but at the same
Not
time,
in a
can
way,
you?
it is.
Well, well, yeah. Like, if you thought you were going to die in less than 7 days, would you be able to think so clearly?
Um, if I had a child, that would be my first prerogative to make sure that child were that you got to make sure certain things are not out in the. I mean, just like we have cats. Okay, we consider them like children. There are certain things we just cannot have out in the open because we know they'll get into it. Well, the same goes for children. You have to pretty much baby-proof your house. And honestly, I know that this investigation was going on and she was freaking out because of this shit, but she should also be in mother mode as well. And she was not. I don't think in entirety thinking about her child while this was going on. And to me, if you're a good mother, you have to wear many hats, and multitask. And she just wasn't able to do that. So,
True.
was she a good mother? I don't think so.
Which is somewhat
What about
explored
you,
more.
Tammy? Do you think that she was a good mother?
No, I think she tried, but she should have been watching over the child a little bit more, knowing that kids get into everything, even furry ones.
Yep.
That's true.
So I'm sorry to call a spade, but um, it was definitely not motherly to allow to suddenly go into the other room and realize he's watched the tape. It shouldn't have ever happened.
Well, that's
But
true.
I get why they had it happen, and
Uh,
I get why it had to happen for the sake of this movie. So it's not that I don't, but
well, it happened in other
I will
versions.
call a bad mother if she was a bad mother.
Oh, yeah, well, Rachel's motherhood skills are actually further questioned and explored in the sequel.
Oh, Rachel's mother.
Rachel's motherhood skills.
Yeah. But in any case, so um,
Mm,
so what exactly gets her on the a ball about finding out what exactly happened? And how did she figure out that there was a child and everything like that? What was the first thing that got her onto those newspapers?
oh, the first thing was when she was analyzing the content of the tape and found this extended image showing a shot of the lighthouse, and she checked in some encyclopedia of American lighthouses which lighthouse it was. And that was when she found out it's from Moesco Island. And she looked up Moesco Island and found some articles about that place and saw photos of some people from that island. And that was when
Well,
she,
and that's when she recognized the woman from the mirror, um,
yes,
who evidently was a rider of horses, and that there was a famine of horses dying, if I remember correctly.
yes, the horses apparently went crazy and broke through the fence of the barn and ran to the shore and committed suicide. And apparently, even though it's not said very clearly here, if you pause the if you pause the movie at moments where you can actually read the content of the newspapers, and if you analyze the deleted scenes and stuff like that, you can actually find out that not all horses died at the same time. It was happening progressively, like. Uh, yeah, Samara was influencing them, I guess, one by one, or maybe few by few. She didn't get rid of them altogether. It was happening over a longer period of time.
Okay, or at least that's who was suspected of doing it.
Uh, Mm, Well, uh, she Richard Morgan put her in the barn with the horses. Okay, she was to say so upstairs, up the ladder. She had something like a bedroom, but at the bottom there were horses, and they were keeping her up at night. So whatever she was doing to Anna, that was causing Anna mental issues, which was why Richard put Samara in the barn. Eventually, Samara ended up doing the same to the horses, and they started to kill themselves.
Okay, so it's assumed that Samara was the cause of these horse deaths.
Yes. Yes, it was said that Samara had this power, projected thermography, which was the power of projecting images from one's own mind, either onto physical surfaces or onto media like a videotape, or into another person's mind. So it was said that Anna was having her mental issues only when she was around Samara, that Samara was making her see horrible things, which was why Anna ended up in a psychiatric hospital and all that. And we also saw a moment of a horse going crazy when Rachel was around after Rachel had seen the tape. And at that time, I guess she
Yeah,
had.
that was on
That fairy.
the ferry. That was
E-
kind of interesting.
yeah,
That was
wasn't it?
freaky.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Of course, why would you go up to a random horse anyways, just to try to pet them? That's stupid. You know?
Well, once the horse started acting up, I would have gone away real quick. Like
Well,
I didn't mean for it to act up. I'm gone. You know.
yeah,
I
and she
wouldn't have
seemed
just
to
Definitely.
stay
stayed there.
around there for a little bit.
Yeah,
Right.
She was stupid.
she just had to keep horsing around.
Well, it was a
uh,
horse apiece.
Sorry, what did you say? It was a
I said it was a
horse.
horse apiece.
Horse to peace.
No, it was a horse apiece.
I'm sorry, I don't understand that phrase.
Uh, Tammy, do you understand that one?
Uh,
I'm not sure really how to explain it.
as
I'm not
far
sure
as
how to
I,
explain it either.
as far as I
It
understood,
was
you
a
said
horse apiece. Meaning you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
a horse. A horse. What's the next word?
A horse apiece.
A
It was a
horse
horse apiece.
of peace. A, a horse of peace. Oh.
No, a horse. The letter A, like a piece. It's
Ah,
a horse, a piece. Like
yeah,
a piece of something.
yeah, I just found it. Yeah,
A
I
horse
didn't
apiece
hear.
is an idiom that means there is no difference between two options. For example, if two routes to the airport are both a 5-minute drive, you could say it's a horse apiece.
Ah,
It's a horse apiece if you leave for school at 12:15 or 12:20.
uh, huh.
Because no matter what, you might run into traffic.
True.
It's a horse apiece whether a banana is going to taste like a banana or not.
You're going to eat it and crap it out anyway, huh?
It's a horse apiece if a horse is going to treat you nice or not.
I'm not sure if it's not treating you nice, it can kill you.
Well, or at least try. It jumped over the side of the darn boat, and then everyone ran to the other side, like, "Oh my God, what's going to happen to the horse?" And then they see blood. You know, it's like these people were entertained by that.
Oh
And it's
yeah, except Rachel and the girl who owned the horse, she was logically terrified. But
she's
we
not the
could,
one who owned the horse, though.
uh, well, there was that girl shouting, "Daddy, my horse!"
Yeah, someone owned the horse.
Uh, yeah, and although it is a little sad for the horse, I don't really like it when animals die in movies, but we could say this scene was kind of a spoodow.
Well, I'm sure it said something. No real animals were killed in first in the movie or whatnot.
But,
Probably
but,
did say something like that.
well, of course, I probably wouldn't have liked this movie if they had actually killed a horse for the purpose of the movie. I, uh, I just went story-wise. I don't like it that much when animals die, even in fiction. But oh well. uh, so yeah, from what we found out. The horses were going crazy. And yeah, in one of those articles that Rachel read, it was said that at one of those horse events, Anna Morgan was holding a daughter. That was how Rachel started suspecting that the tape maybe wasn't made by Anna Morgan, but by a daughter. Um, but yeah, let's see. Um, what did we leave out?
David, I
Right?
can hear you talking, but you're muted.
Okay. Um, basically, she went and saw the doctor on the island when she had gotten the a door from the husband. Um, and she basically went there to talk about the Morgans. Um, and the doctor told her that the Morgans had actually been trying to have kids for years, to no avail. But then they went away and came back with a child. Um, and that was
Uh,
Samara.
oh yeah, although you skipped quite a bit. Uh, Before that happened, Rachel also visited Richard Morgan, who appeared decent at first, but then turned out to be a major asshole with how he treated her.
Well,
Um,
he didn't like her bringing up Samara and everything like that. That he didn't like where the questioning was going. So he basically politely shut her out of his home and didn't want to talk about it. Which I guess it depending on what happens, that actually wasn't entirely rude.
Polite.
It wasn't entirely rude either for someone who is still mourning. You know, if
Uh,
someone doesn't like the questions, they can choose not to answer them. And I think he was as polite as he could be with her about the situation without going into it. It was the
yeah,
second time when she trespassed on his property, which he'd actually gone a little bit crazy.
yeah, even the way he refused to answer her questions the first time, what you call not being entirely rude, I call wanting to avoid responsibility for his actions.
Uh, maybe not at that point in time. I'm not sure whether he had anything to do with. I don't think he had anything to do with the death of his daughter, but he
But
did. I think have something to do with covering it up.
uh, he he was the one who put her in the barn and treated her horribly while she was alive, and it's
We
also
we don't know whether he treated her horribly.
He put her in a barn to sleep with horses.
Well, he was trying to protect his wife, which I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I would have done, but he at least gave her a room and whatnot. I'm not sure what I would have done father-wise either. I'm not sure I would have done that. I'm just not sure. I probably would have just put her in a psych ward.
It's also possible that it was Richard who convinced Anna to kill Samara because
That's not necessarily proven, but it is a possibility.
yeah, I mean, why else would have they even gone to that place? Because the well was where Shelter Mountain Inn was eventually built, that cabin where the tape was found, and that's not quite near Moesco Island where the Morgans lived. So they actually had to travel from one location to the other. And why would they have done that if they had not planned to kill
You're
Samara?
saying they when the only person that we saw pushing her over the well was the mother. I didn't see the father in any of those visions.
Ah, huh, uh, okay, we don't know for sure that he was with them. Yeah, that's true, I guess.
I think he's guilty of putting her up in that barn to be safe from uh, living with them, which I guess at least she had like a TV up there and toys and whatnot. But I'm not. Would you call that abuse, Tammy? Keeping her up there?
I would think so.
Okay.
Was keeping her isolated up there, away from everything, and and it's a barn with animals. I mean,
And having to put up with the animal noises 24/7.
Okay. So
and
I
just
guess
having
he's
to stay up there.
guilty of some abuse, but I don't think he's guilty of her death per se. I think the mother went crazy, and because she continually saw these images, even while she was under a doctor's care, she decided she had enough and took her out there herself, and killed her. Whether or not the father had anything to do with that, I don't know. And there's no evidence to prove that he was or wasn't. So it's not that I'm trying to defend him in any way, shape, or form. He definitely had a part to play in it, but he ultimately went and killed himself with those electronics. So
Yeah, that was also a point when he proved himself to be a major asshole. Like Rachel told him that her own son was in danger, that he was going to die, and Richard was just like, "Oh yeah, he will." Like
well, not
he
only
didn't
that, but
even
Rachel had
care.
trespassed on his property. Not only that, Rachel had trespassed on his property. I don't give a fuck who you are. That Rachel trespassed and walked in on the home, even though the door was locked. It does not give her a permittance to enter someone else's home.
Uh,
You know,
oh, okay, that's true, but does that justify not caring about whether an innocent child will die or not?
people have their own freedoms and their own right to do what they want. So I don't knock him for not wanting to help. What I do knock him for is not wanting to, you know, uh, come clean about what exactly happened. You know,
Yeah, well, uh, not wanting to help being normalized is, in my opinion, one of the causes of there being so much violence out there. But
Well,
okay, that's another
I
story.
agree. I do think there should be more honesty, and should I say, willingness to help out of your own free will. But
Yeah.
also, you don't know whoever you're allowing in your house who has a gun and who can kill you. So there is that in my mind. If you, unfortunately, there is always the chance that if you help someone, they might turn crazy in the end, anyways. I've heard many happenstances where people have just been good Samaritans, and then they end up
Samaritans.
dead because they let that person into their home because, oh my God, they acted like, that whole, okay, ringing the doorbell, saying that your car is broke up the road. Can I use the phone? Kind of thing. And then they end up killed and then robbed.
Actually, funnily enough, something similar was done in The Seekers, the Total Evil movie, which I also would have never discovered if it wasn't for The Ring.
So, but that being said, I mean, the whole reason why I'm maybe defending some of these people is because you don't know exactly what is going to go on. There are things that happen in movies that I swear should never happen. Like, you should never trespass onto someone else's property for for anything, uh, unless you are in need of, like, if someone is trying to attack you on the road, and then I think, it's, to me, I think it's okay to trespass on someone's property. If someone is trying to kill you, you're going to bang down anybody's door that you can to try to get away from that person. So,
Well, this actually was a matter of life and death for Rachel and for her son.
matter of days. Yes, we, unfortunately, yes and no. And yes, she was she and her child were in danger, and she was trying to figure out everything that was happening. But Mr. Morgan did not know her from, she was a stranger in a strange land. She was someone he didn't know. So why would he think of even helping her? Do you get what I'm saying?
In a way, I do, but the way that way of thinking is normal. I mean, I know you are far from the only person who thinks that way. I know
Hey,
that way of thinking.
there's a moment that happened a couple of years ago, and there was an old man who, Tammy might remember this. Someone was trying to get away from, a young person was trying to get away from some people on outside this man's property. Well, he got onto the man's porch, and uh, the man opened fire and shot him dead. And it was in the papers and the news whether it was legal or not for him to do that. On the one hand, the man had every right to defend his home. Okay.
I also heard of a case when a man, at least I think it was a man, killed a 14-year-old girl because she was playing hide and seek in his yard with someone.
In his
Which,
yard, that's a little bit more, I don't know. I guess it depends on whether the man actually owned the yard or not.
Uh, I don't know, but either way, shooting a 14-year-old girl to death for something like that, are you telling me that isn't fucked up?
It depends on what she was doing and whether she was told to stop or not. If she'd been told to stop coming in the yard and playing repeatedly, and she did so, and the man didn't know who the heck it was, that man has every right to shoot whoever is on their property, because it is their. We at least in the United States, we have the right to bear arms.
The right to what?
The right to bear arms.
Bear arms. What does that mean?
It means you have the right to own a gun.
The right to bear arms.
Ah.
Yeah, whenever they refer to weapons, at least in war, it's the armory, right? So.
Yeah. Okay, you do have a right to own a gun.
And you do have the right to defend your property.
Yeah, but if some girl was playing hide and seek, that's not really a danger to his property.
If you've told them over and over and over again to not play hide and seek, then you have every right.
It's every state has things differently as to, of defending the property. Not every state has the same rules and laws for defending your property.
But if they do it,
regardless whether it's legal or not, it's fucked up to kill a child for a reason like that.
Maybe, but it depends on the situation. If the girl continued to play hide and seek and was told consistently not to, then I would have to say that it's the parents' fault for allowing them to continue to do so. And unfortunately, it may sound cold, but the man had every right to defend his property. And
he could have defended it in lots of different ways, not by killing a child.
Well, unfortunately, if you're an elderly person, and I'm assuming that this was that kind of a case where the man was relatively older, when and if he shot her was probably a moment where he did not recognize who the fuck it was, and he was in his right to shoot her since she was on his property. Depending upon the rules. I don't know what the rules were, but did this man get in trouble?
I forgot that part of the story. Maybe I didn't even read it. Maybe I just read the title,
But anyways, let's get back to the movie.
Yeah.
We're getting off subject.
Yes, because I got to take off in like 10 minutes.
Oh, damn. Okay, Tammy, do you maybe want to say your thoughts on the production and music and favorite character and favorite scene? So,
my favorite character is the reporter.
okay, Rachel, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
What did you think about the production overall?
I thought it was pretty decent. I mean, I liked how they kept coming up with, different ideas. Okay, this leads to this leads to that, and it continues on. They're investigative, how they were investigating it, So I think I liked that part of the production. Um, I don't know if I really have a specific favorite scene, because there were so many little instances of things, so that kind of
Ooh,
helped make the movie.
yeah.
I know your favorite scene was probably when the dude electrocuted himself, because that was quite a spit out.
It was a good Spudao, although I was really annoyed by his attitude right before he did that.
Right. My cat decided to do spit out yesterday. I was reclined back in the chair and he jumped on me from the other chair. I had it right on my chest. 15 pounds. Yes, spit out.
Ouch. Yeah.
Ugh.
And what were your
Um,
thoughts? Oh, sorry.
what was the other?
Was it music?
Yeah, I think she
No,
hasn't said.
I don't ever say anything about the music usually.
Well, this movie actually had quite a specific soundtrack. Okay, it was mostly instrumental, but it was by Hans Zimmer, who also did The Lion King and numerous other movies. He is quite a bit of a song. What do you say? Composer.
Well, yeah. I
I
know
mean,
Hans
yeah, I
Zimmer.
think the music went with it and everything, but
It's
so
not necessarily something that she pays attention to when she's watching the movie.
Fair enough.
yeah, the background music I really don't pay a lot of attention to, but if it's like
Yeah.
we were doing apple pie, or whatever,
Oh, American Pie.
American Pie. Now that one, yes, because it was specific songs and stuff that were in the movie I paid attention to. You know,
Yeah,
it's a little bit
yeah,
different.
actually, most of the time I'm like that too. Maybe I don't know. Maybe this is a case where I paid more attention to the music because I saw this movie really many times, and I also own a CD copy of the soundtrack.
Ah,
Well, you're also obsessed with this franchise, so I couldn't believe it.
but yeah,
Actually,
Which I'm kind of surprised that you don't have a Shelf Factory set of these American things yet.
but yeah,
uh,
I don't have like a specific. Mm, I mean, I guess maybe when she falls down the well and she finds the body and then she kind of like gets an image of everything, once she finds the body, that's kind of cool,
whew, well, it did.
so but
Yep, because she ultimately realizes that she was still alive when she was dropped into that well.
was there anything else you want me to comment on?
Not that we know of. So if you
Oh,
wanted to, you could leave and tell everyone to have a great afternoon.
have a
And
great
maybe,
afternoon, and we'll see you for City of Angels next week.
oh, City of Angels. Okay, I will look that up right away.
So,
City of Angels.
alrighty.
Ah,
Well, I'll see you later, honey.
See you later.
okay, see you, Tammy.
Alrighty. So it's just us for right now. Did we finish up the movie or not?
Uh, Well, there were several things we skipped, but if you want, I can just quickly go over it if you are tired or something.
Oh,
Um,
what exactly have we
so
missed?
for example, the investigation part when Rachel is going to Oesco Island. Okay, we did cover her conversation with Richard Morgan, but we skipped over Noah's part of the investigation, which I personally consider interesting for multiple reasons. Uh, One of the things I really found interesting were those X-ray transparencies on which Samara uh, projected some images from her mind. Uh, those images could be found online at some point. Not sure if they still can be found, but yeah, back then, during my main obsession with this franchise, I tracked those images down and I made replicas of those transparencies as accurate as I could at that time. Nowadays, I would probably do better with AI.
Yeah.
Um, uh, yeah, but that was one thing I found really interesting in all the imagery on those transparencies. Well, most of them are connected to the plot of the movie, and you can analyze them and figure out their meanings. And another part of Noah's investigation that I really liked was remember that scene when he asked to see Anna Morgan's medical documents, and they wouldn't give it to him because he wasn't a relative or anything.
Yeah.
And uh, then he pulled this trick that I really liked a lot. The first time I watched that movie, I said, "Oh, I have to pull that trick on someone at least at one point in my life." And I
Which is go around the back and open because he was told that everyone knows the records are downstairs.
Yeah, first he said it was upstairs and tricked the clerk into revealing that it wasn't there, that it was downstairs. He was like, "Haha, nice try. The record rooms are downstairs, guy." And Noah was like, uh, "Yeah." Noah was like, "Okay, you win." Like he pretended to have given up because otherwise they would have come after him probably, but he acted as if he had given up, and then he went to find the documents on his own. And I thought that was really brilliant, and I think that's one aspect in which I think they gave this version of the character a little bit of the personality of Ryuji Takayama from the novel. That version of him that I like so much. Uh, okay, in the novel he was still much different, portrayed in a more morally gray light, and throughout the movie they were keeping you thinking if he was possibly even a bad guy, while there was no word about Noah being a bad guy. But yeah, Ryuji was known for having an interest in psychology and stuff like that, and Noah really showed himself being good at mentalism and stuff, which is an aspect of this character that I really like. And also his sense of humor later on, like when he is looking for the tape that Rachel eventually finds out with that recording of Samara at the hospital. So when Noah is looking for that tape and he talks to that black guy, and he introduces himself as Richard Morgan, and the black guy is like, "Bullshit, you are too young to be him. Like, what is your secret?" And Noah is like, "Diet and exercise." Yeah, like he showed some sense of humor there that he didn't show that much in the Japanese version, not in the movie at least. But in the novel, he does have quite a bit of sense of humor, although not like that. Not like this. In this version, he is more. He does have a sense of humor, but it's more playful and harmless. While in the Japanese novel, Ryuji Takayama's sense of humor is more controversial and provocative, like more intended to provoke the outrage of people who hear the stuff he says, which uh, which is an aspect of him that I also really like in the novels.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, like okay, I probably mentioned that while we were discussing Ringu Kanzenban, but when in the novel, when the main reporter asked him what his plans for the future are, he said, while viewing the extinction of the human race from the top of a hill, I would dig a hole in earth and ejaculate into it over and over again.
Okay.
Yeah, so he he had a morbid and provocative sense of humor, which was one of my personal favorite aspects of him because that's one of my own personality traits as well. Although maybe I don't show it that much in our discussions because we don't really discuss stuff that way. But otherwise, I sometimes I like to troll people by saying things that I often don't even mean, only to provoke some amusing reactions.
Well,
Yeah.
you know my sense of humor, so I don't mind.
Okay, good to know that.
I I have quite a sick sense of humor, which is why I'm into the movies that I am. Which I guess I don't understand why Tammy thinks some of those are stupid, but I guess that is neither here nor now.
uh, Buddy the Killer thing.
Yeah, that's one of them. And she also doesn't like killer clowns from outer space. So,
Yeah.
but I tend to like some of these just because they're that stupid. But
Indeed.
in any case, alrighty. So,
Uh,
is there anything else?
uh, Up to the point of Samara's body being found, is there anything else that we missed? Uh, can
There is
can you
that
think
moment.
of it?
There is that moment where I think she's actually talking to her mother. Rachel is, and she's choking because apparently there's something deep inside her throat.
Uh, oh, actually, the person she was talking to is not her mother; it's her sister. But yeah, that was that was a part of her nightmare that she woke up from right before realizing that Aiden had watched the tape.
Yep. So
Uh, what do you think of that scene?
I thought that it was going to be like a piece of Samara's hair, but it ended up being that EKG thingy that would have been on somebody's chest or somebody's brain or something like that.
Yeah, so
It was
that's
definitely a weird moment.
oh yeah. Well, it was a nightmare that evidently Samara had projected into Rachel's mind. I guess it was supposed to give uh, vague idea of how Samara was treated at that hospital, because there was also a very quick flash of Rachel being in that chair where Samara was sitting when the doctor was talking to her.
Yep.
Uh,
So I guess at the end of everything, what did you think about the production overall?
Oh, well, we had covered the movie up to the moment of Samara's body being found, but we didn't discuss the actual most iconic scene of the movie.
Which is
Samara coming out of TV.
aha. So at the end of everything, Samara came out of the TV and basically killed the ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, which in a way I didn't like, because I really liked Noah as a character. But yeah, they did the same thing in other versions as well as in the novel. Like in the novel, yeah, I guess Ryuji's character is mainly there. Okay, he does contribute to the investigation, but theoretically, it could have been written just with Asakawa doing the whole investigation himself. So I guess the main reason why Ryuji was in the story was to so that we can eventually see what actually happens to people who die from the tape. And yeah, in this case, we saw it with Noah. So yeah, that's probably the main reason why he exists in the story to begin with.
He existed to be a victim.
Yeah,
He
I
existed to die.
unfortunately, yes. Which
Unfortunately, yes, but he didn't know he was supposed to copy the tape and give it to someone else to view, which is kind of one of the scenes that we get towards the end here, where the mother actually copies the tape for her sons so that they can so that he can live on.
yeah. Uh, okay, not sure if you noticed this interesting detail. I noticed it after who knows how many times I watched the movie. When Rachel is watching that recording of Samara at the hospital, when the doctor says, you don't want to hurt anyone, and Samara says, but I do, and I'm sorry, it won't stop. When Samara is saying that on the recording, she is looking down, not facing the doctor or the camera, but at the end, after Noah's death, when Rachel is about to realize that she had copied the tape and that that's what she has to do in order to save Aiden, she has a flashback of that moment of Samara saying, but I do and I'm sorry, it won't stop. But in that flashback, Samara is not looking down, she is looking straight into the camera. Now, that means that Rachel actually hadn't figured it out on her own, but the flashback was projected into her mind by Samara, because if Samara hadn't done it at that point, Rachel would have destroyed the other tape and Samara's message would have been destroyed.
Yeah, which means Mara actually helped her in some way, if it's the way that you say it happened.
Well, at least that's how I interpreted it, because what else would be the reason why Samara wasn't facing the camera on the recording, but
Because maybe she was facing the camera on the recording and we didn't see the rest of it.
uh, well, that would imply that she said, but I do, and I'm sorry, it won't stop. That she said it twice, once looking down and once looking straight into the camera.
Well, unfortunately, we don't really know for sure. So it is and can be interpreted the way you say, but and I guess that would be probably uh, the one that you would rather go with, because then that would imply that Samara is in fact a good person.
Not necessarily a good person. She just didn't want her tape to be destroyed. She wanted other people to see it and experience her pain.
Oh, so
Sorry, what?
she didn't just want it to die off at Rachel, or
Yeah,
to die off right
pretty,
then and there. She wanted the
pretty
ring to
much.
continue to circle.
Yeah, literally, yeah. In the novel, they even use the term ring to describe the cyclical nature of Sadako's modus operandi. And also like the ring of people involved with the tape. Like every time someone copies the tape and shows it to someone else, the ring is growing. In the in the novel, the word ring doesn't isn't referring to the shape of the well or anything like that. If you remember, in Kanzenban, the well was even square shaped. It wasn't even a circle.
Yeah, but you're talking about as if Kanzenban was actually. Uh, uh, I know you consider it a ring movie, but everyone else is ignoring that movie. But you
Yeah,
compare it a
because
lot.
it, sorry, I what?
You compare Kanzenban to this film a lot.
Well, Kanzenban was based on the novel. This movie, okay, it's more based on Hideo Nakata's Ringu, but it also took a few details from the novel. But yeah, and what did you actually think of the very scene of Samara coming out of TV and killing Noah the way she did?
Well, I wish I would have seen her a little bit more. To be fair and honest, I know that she looks like an American version of Sadako. It's just she's a white child instead of a Japanese child. So
Oh, and when Sadako comes
I
out
wish I
of
would have seen
TV,
her. I wish I would have seen her walking with those arms outstretched instead of that shifting thing.
oh yeah. Now, when you say that, I think when we eventually down the road get to the Japanese movie Sadako 3D, I think you are going to like some things they did in that one. But okay, that's another story for now. But in Nakata's Ringu, when Sadako is coming out of TV, okay, when we see her eye, it does look kind of deformed and not quite human, but she doesn't really look that much like a corpse like Samara does in this movie. And it's also interesting to notice that Samara is supposed to be a child, right? Like she was a child when she died, yet here when she comes out of TV, she has the height of an adult. She is almost as tall as Noah, if you noticed.
I didn't notice, but I guess if you have time on your hands to analyze, I guess so.
I analyzed the living crap out of this movie back in 2012 and 2013. Well, not just this movie, the whole franchise, or at
Which
least
is
the.
funny because The Ring came out like 10 years earlier.
Yeah, but 10 years earlier, in 2002, I was 11 years old and wasn't really into horror at all.
Well, I was even before that. When I was 5 years old, I read Little Men and The Shining when I was 6.
Oh,
I,
true.
I was a boy ahead of his time, so I did a lot of my horror reading early,
Yeah.
which may be why I'm so fucked up.
And it's also interesting that I got interested in this movie in 2012, which is the year when the Japanese part of the franchise was also being revived, but I actually didn't know that. It's an interesting coincidence, and I got interested in this movie after seeing some memes based on the American version. So whoever made those memes probably wasn't aware of the Japanese franchise being revived. So I'd say it's quite an interesting coincidence.
I also remember 2012 being a year they thought the world was going to end,
Yeah,
and that's when they came out with the 2012 movie.
yeah, they thought the world was going to end on December 21st, 2012.
Yep. And the year before that, we had September 11th. So happened. So, which was the day the towers fell.
Wasn't that 10 years before that? Well,
No.
11 years.
Let's see.
2001.
Yeah, 2001. The year before, because
The
2002
year
was when
before
this.
the ring came out.
Correct. The year before the American Ring came out.
Yes, yes.
But as you know, the original Ring came out in 1995.
Yes, the TV version.
Yes, and then the other one came out in 1998.
8.
So
Indeed.
I'm just saying the year before that happened, and I know I've lived through several disaster moments too. I remember when Waco happened, and I also remember when the Oklahoma City bombings happened. So those were there. I also remember when Columbine happened. So
Oh,
I
uh,
don't know if you heard about any of those.
uh, uh, actually, no. What did you say was this first thing you mentioned before the Oklahoma bombing?
Waco. That's when the Branch Davidians decided to hold themselves up in Texas, in Waco, Texas, and I believe it was David Koresh who claimed he himself was Jesus Christ, and he made his followers the ones who were left who were not able to be um, convinced to leave the cult. He made his cult members drink poison and killed off the rest of his and himself. Um,
Oh,
it was
oh,
a similar situation to the Guyana situation, which has something to do with Jim Jones. Yeah,
the Heaven's Gate, maybe.
yeah,
Oh,
it was huge at that time. The Branch
y-
Davidian thing.
Oh yeah, I just found an article about this Waco incident. I actually didn't even hear of that one.
Well, yeah.
I did hear about Heaven's Gate, but not this.
Let's see. I'll send you some cult stuff that you can read up about cults and stuff too, because I used to be quite into reading about cults as well. Let's see if I can find it. Rick Ross archive. Oh,
Hoot hoot.
see if I can find this thing. Rick Ross cult. He's up there now, but I remember actually. Ah, here we go. I'm not sure if this will come through on your end, but see if it does. You can look up anything dealing with cults on this website. I just sent it to your Philly Bluetooth.
Oh, okay, thanks. I will check it out later.
Yep. That has everything. Even if you look up the I found some interesting articles on that document, that documentary that Kroll actually tried had us watch.
The Secret.
The Secret, yes.
What did you find about that?
I found definitely some articles in this archive thing, which, if there's anything on cults, this is the website you find it on. So the fact that they have several articles dealing with that particular documentary means that it is cult like. So,
Ah, I understand.
but in any case, I enjoyed the Ring at the time that I watched it. I definitely think the production was pretty good overall. Um, it wasn't as great as the original Japanese franchise.
Oh,
Um, it pales in comparison, at least as far as Sadako is concerned, or Samara, whoever they're trying to portray. I mean, the story is interesting and all that jazz, but I think this came out at a moment where people were like, "Oh, cool." Well, the thing is, people have to realize that we're just imitating other cultures uh, at moments, and this is one of those. And yes, I do think that
well,
this was a success at the time, but the sequel I know paled in comparison. And I'm not sure how the sequel that came out after that uh, was with the audience, but I then again haven't watched it since I picked it up or whatnot. Um, so
uh, what you're saying is quite interesting. Personally, I have heard many people glorify the Japanese version over this one. They are like, Ringu is amazing, the ring is bullshit. I have heard a lot of that.
it's
Personally,
not that this American one is bullshit, but it's half bullshit to me. So um, I like
well,
the the mood that I get from the original Japanese renditions than I do when I watch this movie. The only thing I think that should have been a thing was I think they should have dubbed voices in the original Ring franchise so that it could have gotten a broader audience.
Well, that wouldn't have been bad if they had done that. True. But another interesting thing I wanted to mention, you said the sequel to the American version maybe wasn't as successful as the first one. That's also possibly true. But it is kind of ironic because while this movie was directed by Gore Verbinski, the sequel, even though it's an American movie, it was directed by Hideo Nakata, the Japanese director of Ringu.
Oh, so the sequel, the American sequel, was directed by
Yeah,
Hideo.
yes.
Okay, yeah. That's interesting to know.
Indeed. And one more thing okay, I will get into that when we get into production. That's for that part, maybe.
Well, I know for music wise, I didn't really pay attention to the music, but I have heard of Hans Zimmerman, and I I do like some of the music that he has put out there. I even think I remember having a tape with Hans Zimmerman music on it at one point in time. But
Cool.
that being said, the music was serviceable. And I guess if I had anything to say if I had a favorite character, I would have to go with Aiden. I don't know
Aiden,
why. Yeah,
interesting choice.
I'd have to go with Aiden because Rachel, uh, some of the things she did, I just couldn't agree with why she was doing them. Um,
Makes sense.
um, Aiden and or his father. I kind of
Ooh,
liked his father for a little bit.
same.
But as far as favorite scenes, I would have to say the initial having her watch the video, and then later on when when they actually found the room that Samara had actually been in, um, uh, and ultimately when she actually found out the information on the lighthouse, I thought that was amusing. How she found out about each and everything that went with it. You know what connected the dots. You know that aspect.
Cool,
Um,
yeah.
what about you? Production wise, music,
Uh,
favorite character, and favorite scenes for you.
Production I really liked. I think the movie is quite a bit visually appealing. This bluish tint that's present throughout the whole movie, I think that it actually works quite well for the mood. And one thing I really like about this movie, okay, they also did that in the Japanese version, both in the movies and the novel, but I would say in this movie it's kind of even more prominent how they take some motives from everyday life and put it into a horror context, like at the time when this movie was new, videotapes were like an everyday thing. Everyone was using videotapes. And then this movie comes and portrays a videotape as something to be afraid of. And aside from a videotape, this movie also does the same thing with televisions, VCRs, phones, mirrors, wells, water, things like that, flies. after watching this movie, whenever you would stumble upon one of those things, you would be reminded of this movie. That's something I personally find really interesting when that is done in horror, and this movie does it very well. No pun intended.
Okay.
So, and the effects were also pretty cool. Of course, especially the moment of Samara coming out of TV. The tape itself, the imagery on it. I mean, okay, it is a high budget movie, so it's expected for everything to be done properly. But yeah, the music I also enjoy. Like I said before, I own an official CD copy of this movie soundtrack. Sometimes I listen to that soundtrack for Halloween. So yeah, I really liked the music, especially that little lullaby that we partially hear Samara sing in the movie, but it's actually heard better at the end of the ending credits. So
Okay.
that's another interesting thing I like. And my favorite character, oh well, not gonna lie, I do like Samara quite a bit because I know that may sound bad to say, but I find her somewhat relatable because I myself have also always, especially throughout growing up, I always felt like an outcast. Okay, I wasn't treated quite as badly as Samara, and no one tried to kill me, but throughout my growing up, I also always had people criticizing me for being the way I was for one reason or another. I literally never had anyone who was who thought I was good exactly the way I was without wanting to change anything about me. So in that aspect, I find Samara actually very relatable, and I can understand her desire to make the whole world pay for how she was treated. Uh,
I
and
can relate to that because I myself grew up as an outcast myself, having my own disability. I know a lot of people thought it was weird that I carried like 50 to 60 books around with me in a backpack to school and whatnot, and I would always tell them I'm reading every single one of them. Well, I was. Um, and people thought that I was a walking library, um, and at the time thought I was rather weird for being so. Anyways, so
yeah, but aside from Samara, I'd say my favorite character was Noah. I, like I said before, I really liked his intelligence that he shows in figuring things out and how he sometimes tricks people to get what he wants. That's something I really found cool about him and his sense of humor too. Like when he was when that black guy asked him, "How can you be Richard Morgan?" and he was like, "Diet and exercise," even when it was obvious that he is not Richard Morgan. uh, so yeah, and my favorite scene, well, I know it wasn't a very significant scene story-wise, but I really liked that moment when Noah tricked those people at the hospital to reveal the location of the record room.
yeah,
uh, yeah, okay, story-wise maybe, and production-wise, the most impacting scene is definitely Samara coming out of TV, but story-wise, it's not really my favorite scene. But well, what else I liked story-wise? Well, I did like the good spoo downs, like Richard Morgan killing himself, even though I still think he was a major asshole in that moment, but he kind of got what he deserved.
Yeah.
The scene with the horse was also a bit of a spuda, as it destroyed some cars before killing itself. Uh, I also liked the moments of Rachel analyzing the tape. Oh, and one funny thing I'd like to mention. You notice that detail when someone has watched the tape, they start unconsciously drawing Samara's hair on faces in magazines and stuff like that. You notice that, right?
A little bit.
Yeah. So when I got interested in this movie in 2012, I mean, after I watched it, I started to pull that prank on some people. Like at my grandmother's place, I would start drawing Samara's hair on faces of random people in newspapers and stuff. My grandmother even had some picture of Jesus that I drew Samara's hair on. uh,
Okay.
so yeah, I was kind of crazy. I loved to pull ring-inspired pranks on people. Okay, sorry for rambling about that now.
Well, you were obsessed with it.
Well,
Either
we
that
could say so.
or Samara caused you to go crazy.
We could interpret it that way.
But
um,
in any case, I think at the end of the day, that is our discussion, ladies and gentlemen. So hopefully you got a chance to watch the movie, listen to our discussion, and let us know down in the comments what you thought of our entire discussion on The Ring. And if we went a little long, it's because our good friend here
couldn't
really
shut
loves
up.
The Ring.
Sorry, what did you say?
If
Because
we went a little long here, then you well know that our good friend here is well knowledgeable about The Ring, and he really loves it. So if he can love this franchise, then maybe you can like something about it too. If you have not seen the movie, go out and see it, and we'll see you next time here on Delusions of Grandeur.
oh yeah.
On that note, everyone say good night.
Good night, everyone.
And
Inside movies galore, just makes you just want more. We've had all in the world of media to explore. Horror, anime, or Curious George. Our love of new things was our reward. It is the best night of our week.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.